Um, I want to add something to study goal number 25. This should be kind of brief. Um, your book had a list of 8 reasons why petroleum and natural gas um, are dirty, uh, ways in which they impact the environment, excuse me. Um, and they're all relevant. The stuff about drilling muds, you have a whole list. But I want to add 3 more things. I'd like you to add in number 25, 9, 10, and 11. Number 9, oil tankers are really dirty, and your book didn't mention that. In many parts of the world, they're the #1 source of air pollution, and they are globally a major source of air pollution because their fuel is very, very, very dirty. It's basically like burning roofing tar. It's really, really dirty. It's the dirtiest liquid fuel. There's a whole bunch of these tankers. You can find websites that map them around the world. It's freely available. They use a type of beacon that is shared globally. So there's free websites where you can track them. I wish I'd thought of this. I would have shown you a picture. They're all over the place, all burning this really gnarly fuel. It's kind of bigger than the volume of gasoline, but only being burned in tankers where their engines are extremely dirty, and there's basically no regulation because it's an international water. So in terms of air pollution, tankers are really foul, and there's a lot of them going long distances. Then these are also a major source of water pollution because for a variety of reasons that I don't have time for anymore, they end up dumping little bits or big amounts of petroleum into the ocean. It is the single largest source of petroleum going to the ocean. If you take all the other sources of petroleum in the ocean, so you may have heard of oil spills. You can imagine that petroleum runs off land whenever it rains. And you probably never heard of this, but there's something called atmospheric deposition, where little bits of petroleum get made into an aerosol and eventually fall in the ocean. If you add all of those other sources, tankers still add more to the ocean than all of those other sources combined. So number 9, tankers themselves are really dirty. Number 10, the process of separating petroleum into the different products, it's extremely dirty. This is called fractional distillation, and you have to know that. And basically you distill the fractions of petroleum. So distilling is the process where you heat something up until it turns to gas, and you capture that gas and cool it back down to a liquid. You probably don't need to know that, but maybe you've heard of stilling moonshine. Maybe you know that alcohol is distilled because you evaporate the alcohol from the water. It boils lower temperature than water, so the alcohol will evaporate. You catch that alcohol vapor and you make it into concentrated alcohol. That's what we drink as booze. So you can do this with petroleum. You can take all the mixture of petroleum, the natural gas will bubble out on its own, and then you add a little bit of heat so that the short carbon chains turn to gas, capture them, and that's naphtha. Heat it up a little bit more, capture that, make that back into liquid, and that's gasoline. So this is how we refine petroleum. You should know that this is a refinery. And basically refineries are taking petroleum and evaporating it in stages, catching all that vapor, and then processing those for different product chains. So some of it becomes the natural gas industry, some becomes the plastics industry, some becomes the pharmaceuticals and paint industry, some becomes gasoline. Some becomes home heating oil, some becomes train fuel, some becomes tanker fuel, some becomes lubricant, some becomes asphalt, some becomes whatever. You got it. That's extremely dirty. It is probably the dirtiest activity that humans do if you measure units of pollution per dollar. And this was not in your book either. The process of refining is extremely dirty. It uses a ton of energy. That's usually dirty fossil fuel energy. It has a lot of gas emissions and a lot of incidental spillage. So fractional distillation is very dirty. And then number 11, keep in mind, we got to take all these products and we still got to ship them all over the United States or all over any other country. And so if you think of all the gasoline tankers that roll over on the freeway sometimes, and then you think of all the tar that spills out of pipes, and then you think about all the jet fuel that's going to all the airports and all the tanker fuel that's going to all the harbors, you know, there's a lot of accidents, hazards, spills, leaks here and there, and that really adds up. I want you to remember that 1 through 8 plus 9, 10, and 11 mean that fossil fuels are a pretty messy energy source. And economically, they're a no-brainer. You spend less money for more work than humans. You could replace, I think, 2 weeks of my labor with a gallon of gasoline. So think about that. You have to keep me alive for 2 weeks, or you can get a gallon of gasoline. At my pay rate, let me see, what's the math? 6 minutes of my work costs more than gasoline. So you can choose. You want Jose to work for 6 minutes, or you want a gallon of gasoline that does 2 weeks of his labor potential. Fossil fuels make sense. I'm not saying that they were an illogical choice. I'm saying that now we just can't afford it. It's like a bad habit that you really like, but it's just too bad for us. That's what I'm saying about fossil fuels. Everything that you've heard about petroleum before this class, all the stuff about smog and air pollution and climate change and all that, that's number 12. The next time you're in a room and somebody's like, oh my God, yeah, we really gasoline, climate change, whatever. Or there's somebody else in the room that's like, who cares about the climate change, man? I love my car, it goes so fast, vroom, vroom. I want to remind you that before you burn it to make air pollution, fossil fuel industry has had problems 1 through 11. It really is a pretty bad habit. Okay.